Hello, great people. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is facing heavy public backlash for putting on a Patek Philippe wristwatch that is worth 115,000 US dollars. In Nigeria's currency, that is just a token of 185 million naira. Nigerians are criticizing the president for putting on such an expensive wristwatch at a time when Nigerians are languishing in anguish and at a time where there's widespread poverty in the country. The president was spotted wearing the wristwatch apparently at the commissioning of the Abuja International Conference Center that was renamed after him by the Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike. On this episode of Politics with Joshua Plug, Dr. Omosoladeji, we'll be looking at the lifestyle of Nigerian politicians. What kind of wristwatch do Nigerian politicians wear? And I'll be giving you 4 instances of people that are political subordinates of the president. They will be making a comparative analysis of the cost of their wristwatch and the value of it vis-a-vis that of the president. And I'll be giving you the 4 instances of Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, Seyi Tinubu, the son of the president, Dele Alake, the president's minister for solid minerals, and Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State. Will be doing a comparative analysis of the cost and value of their wristwatch with that of the president. They will be going into class, political class in Nigeria. What kind of life do Nigerians politicians live? Then we'll be delving into the issue of time. The time that the president is wearing this wristwatch in at the moment of our national history. What can we point to in this regard? And what is the lifestyle of the president? And what can we point to as regards his relationship with the masses and the widespread poverty in Nigeria? We'll be dissecting all this and a whole lot more on this episode with your sure plug, Dr. Omosoladeji. First, let us do a comparative analysis of the kind of wristwatch that Nigerian politicians wear. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was seen with a Patek Philippe wristwatch that is worth about 115,000 US dollars. That is about 185 million naira. Now, let us go to Hope Uzodinma, the governor of Imo State. And I have the records. You will recall that at one point in time, there was a public outcry as regards the value of the wristwatch of the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma. Hope Uzodinma, at a point in time, was seen putting on a Jacob & Co. Astronomia Sky wristwatch. A Jacob & Co. Astronomia Sky wristwatch. That particular wristwatch was worth reportedly 455 million naira. It was worth 785,000 US dollars. If you do the conversion, that's about 445 million naira. Now let us go to the second example, which is the son of the president, Seyi Tinubu. You will recall that at one point in time, there was public backlash as regards the value of the watch of the son of the president. Seyi Tinubu at that point in time was putting on a Richard Mille wristwatch and Richard Mille RM055 wristwatch. And that is not the only Richard Mille wristwatch that he has. And the wristwatch is reportedly cost about 825 million naira. That is about 550,000 US dollars. Now, the third example, don't forget that the wristwatch that the president is putting on costs about 115,000 US dollars. Now, let us go to the third example. It is Dele Alake. Dele Alake, the president minister for solid minerals, Dele Alake, was also seen at one point in time, putting on a Richard Mille wristwatch. And the Richard Mille wristwatch reportedly cost about 260 million naira. That is 173,000 dollars. Now, the fourth example that I have for you is that of Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Babajide Sanwo-Olu at one point in time was seen brandishing a Patek Philippe 5930G/11 Vatron Constantine Omega wristwatch, and the value of that wristwatch was reportedly 190 million naira. That's the value of the wristwatch. So, looking at these 4 instances, if you look at it very well, all these 4 political subordinates of the president, their wristwatch is even more expensive than that of the president. Now, I'm not justifying that the president has to wear such an expensive wristwatch. I'm just making a comparative analysis for you to expose you into the lifestyle of politically exposed person in Nigeria amidst widespread poverty and hardship. Now, having given you that four instances, let me tell you something. To my mind, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, president of Nigeria, is rich, he can afford that particular wristwatch. He can afford the one that is even more expensive than that, although his source of wealth has remained largely unclear and questionable. His source of wealth has largely remained unclear and questionable. And the day that I know that Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be very stupendously rich was the day Dele Momodu, publisher of Ovation magazine, appeared on TV and he said that the wealth of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that he doesn't know how he came about that wealth, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is stupendously rich. And to kind of like lay credence to Dele Momodu's testimony, you will recall that during the presidential election, in past presidential election in Nigeria, the presidential candidate usually go around with begging bowls. They will be begging governors for money. They will be looking for federal support. But Bola Ahmed Tinubu wasn't going around with begging bowl. He funded that particular presidential campaign without going around with any begging bowl, without soliciting for funds or doing any kind of major fundraising, and he eventually was declared the president of Nigeria. So his source of wealth remains questionable and largely unclear, but can Tinubu afford a $115,000 Patek Philippe wristwatch? Yes, apparently he can. I will come to the issue of gift in a moment, because some of you will be saying it is a gift, and don't forget we are still going to the issue of time. But then let us look at two things, which is occupational culture and occupational expectation. The president is a politician, so his occupation is politician and the president of Nigeria. So it will be safe for us to look at what I call occupational culture and occupational expectation. Occupational culture in the sense that culture is a way of life, right? So what do you expect from politicians? What is the standard of the standard practice, or what should the standard practice be for politicians in Nigeria? You see, politicians in Nigeria, they operate in a different world entirely from their other counterparts across the globe. Now, I will explain to you. As a politician, you are to superintend fairly and effectively over state resources. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he is right now, is expected to superintend fairly and effectively over the resources of Nigeria. But then the problem is that in Nigeria, politicians often see state funds as their personal property. They are not largely accountable, and they expect that they can spend as anyhow they like, particularly if they now have a weak legislature. So the occupational culture for a politician is that you are supposed to superintend fairly and effectively. But then in Nigeria, the reverse seems to be the case. Now, occupational expectation is that you are not expected to appear flamboyant. You are controlling a lot of resources. There's a lot of resources at your disposal, but then you are not expected to appear flamboyant. So in a country where people can hardly feed, in a country where people are languishing in anguish, then if you are brandishing a wristwatch, even if you can afford it, and that's why I took my time to explain it, because of some people that even if you say 1 + 1 is 2, some people will still not understand it. That is how some people are. But then I take my time to break it down for you so that if you are of same mind, you can understand me. Even if you can afford that wristwatch, the occupational expectation is that you are not expected to appear overly flamboyant, in the sense that if you appear flamboyant, you are passing a message to your political subordinate. So if you are not flamboyant, if you operate a modest life, definitely your subordinate, even if they have that kind of wristwatch, they will still kind of like operate a kind of like modest approach to life. So that's why I spoke about occupational expectation. Now let me go back to the issue of class before I go back to that of time. You see, as regards class, there are some things that the Nigerian political elite sees as normal. You see, if you are a normal Nigerian, you will criticize them for some things if you are on the other side of the citizen, like if you are a citizen. But then politicians reason differently, in the sense that wearing an expensive wristwatch to some of them is a thing of class. Just as some of you will buy iPhone if you have the money. You are not using iPhone perhaps because you don't have the money. Nigerian politicians wearing expensive wristwatch seem to be a thing of class among them. Another thing that is a thing of class is second citizenship for their children. Most Nigerian politicians, they go all out to acquire second citizenship for their children. So if you are rating in terms of the Nigerian political elite, what they see as value, what they see as something that they must have, just as an average Nigerian, some of them will say, oh, smartphone as something of value, just as some of all these, fraudsters, they will see Benz as a car of value. To the Nigerian political class, second citizenship is also one of the things that they see as something of value. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, apparently because he has the money, he may want to meet up with the lifestyle of Western leaders. Bola Ahmed Tinubu may want to meet up with the lifestyle of Western leaders. But then, we must not fail to realize that Nigeria is not the West. Those Western leaders, I doubt whether there is a Western leader that will put on a $250,000 worth of wristwatch. You only see most of their entertainers, their artists, musicians, and all that. But even if that is the case, definitely you won't compare the West to Nigeria. So the big question is that, could this be a gift for Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Well, the thing is that if you receive such an expensive gift, that gift is not your property. If you are a president, if you are a governor, if you receive an expensive gift, that gift is not your property. That gift is a Nigerian property. And the usual standard is they will sell that particular gift and deposit the money into the national treasury. During the days of Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, there was an official that received a gift and he kept it to himself. I can't remember the name of the person now. Babangida punished that person. So the real standard is that you are supposed to hand over any gift that is given you to the state, and the money, after it is being sold, should be remitted to the national treasury, because it is believed that that gift is to influence you one way or the other. And sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu could be gifted by rich people to register their names in his heart. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he is, as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is in charge of over 6,000 appointments. He is the CEO of Nigeria at the moment. So a lot of people want to register their names in his heart. So people can give him even something that worth $250,000. But then again, the normal standard is that once those gifts come in, it is not meant to be kept, but you are supposed to give it to the country and it should be sold. Then the money will be put into the national treasury. That is the normal standard. I would just advise the president that he can live the life that he wants, but then he should be a bit modest in his way, so that his political subordinate and associate will not learn that extravagant lifestyle from him, and he should think of writing his name in gold by erasing poverty and hardship in Nigeria to the barest minimum, so that Nigeria can feel him and he can be remembered for all this when his tenure has passed. It's been an interesting time with you on this episode of Politics with Joshua Plug. Subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past video. See you in my next video. I love you all sincerely.